Колеги, ми продовжуємо.
Dear colleagues, we continue with our working day, and I invite to the mic the spokesperson of the administration of the President of Ukraine on anti-terrorist operation, Colonel Andriy Lysenko. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Yesterday was marked with the continuation of the escalation of the conflict in the east of Ukraine. The enemy continues to actively use heavy armaments in Donetsk and Mariupol sectors, including artillery and multiple launchers. Yesterday, late at night, the enemy occupiers have conducted an artillery shelling of Sartana, a suburb of Mariupol, as a result of which 2 peaceful residents died and 6 were wounded, including a 10-year-old girl. 4 houses were ruined. Against this background, the leaders of the bandit formation threaten with active offensive actions. The anti-terrorist operation forces are at high combat capacity and do repel in time any attempts of the enemy to change the front line. In Luhansk sector, the shellings and small provocations by the enemy continue next to Stanitsa Luhanska. The militants are more active in the nighttime, shelling and firing in the direction of the district center from the opposite bank of the Siversky Donetsk River. Yesterday they have conducted a mortar shelling of conducted from Malaverhunka. The same situation is in Shastya. However, this sector, the gunmen, the militants are conducting their provocations in daytime. However, the heavy armament they don't use. To the west of Shastya, we saw the enemy activity next to Trokhizbenka and Nizhny. The enemy adheres to the tactics of mortar shelling from the southern direction along the roads of local significance. Especially powerful exchange of fire between the militants and the anti-terrorist operation forces took place between 6 and 7 p.m. to the east, to the south of Trokhizbenka, and the enemy used mortars and grenade launchers. In Donetsk sector, next to Svetlodarska axis, the situation remains rather calm, and there were only 3 episodes of the violation of the regime of silence from the enemy side. In the vicinity of Horlivka, the exchange of fire between the enemy and the Ukrainian military continues along the entire line of demarcation around the occupied city, from Svetlodarsky water reservoir to the settlement Novhorodsk. The most complicated situation is to the north of the city in Mayorskoye Zaitsevo, where the enemy shells our frontline positions from high-caliber mortars, artillery, and tanks. And the militants place their heavy armaments in residential districts around the entire Horlivka. On the front line from Horlivka to Yasinovato, the epicenter of combat action yesterday was Verkhnotoretsky and Troitska settlements, where our military were 10 times shelled from heavy armaments, including twice from Grad multiple rocket launcher. The machinery of the battle machinery of the occupants is placed next to Mikhailovka and Potelemonivka, less than 8 kilometers from the front line. Next to Donetsk, the situation has not sustained any significant changes. However, it was relatively calm only from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
At the line of the front, Avdiivka, Opatnopilskiy, Krasnogorivka, Mariivka, almost 50% of all violations of ceasefire take place. The military actions were resumed at the exit from Donetsk to Mariupol. The enemy 3 times was shelling at our positions in Taramchuk and Berezove, 1 time from artillery and twice from grad systems. In Mariupolsky direction, the main place of fighting is along the line Bogdanivka, Starognatyevka, Granitna. The militants are using 120 millimeter mortars, and they are shelling at the ATO forces from 10 kilometers in the daytime and at night. 2 more shellings were registered near Talalakivka and Sartana. Yesterday in the ATO zone, the flights of 4 enemy's drones were registered. Also, our bodyguards detected 1 drone and 2 helicopters of the country aggressor at the line of separation between Crimea and Kherson region. During the last 24 hours, 2 Ukrainian servicemen were killed, 7 were wounded. In the result of the violation of the ceasefire by illegal criminal groups, the infrastructure of pre-front municipalities continues to be ruined. The photographs were made by the Joint Center of Control and Coordination near Andriy, Volnovasky district of Donetsk region, which was shelled at from enemy's artillery. There were 19 residential houses ruined and damaged. The Ukrainian servicemen are observing Minsk agreements, but the aggression of militants receives a very powerful response from the armed forces of Ukraine. The illegal weapons are confiscated on the territory of ATO. The anti-tank grenade launcher, 11 grenades and more than 300 cartridges were confiscated from a militiaman from a resident of Avdiivka by militiamen. The rotation of Ukrainian law enforcers continues. The servicemen of Sokil platoon that were serving in Mariupol are returning to the place of their permanent dislocation. Sokil is serving Donetsk region from May 2014. This team has more than 100 servicemen that are replaced as part of rotation. The Sokil servicemen participated in special operations on discovery and detention of armed criminals and collaborators. Now, thank you. And the questions. Channel 5, could you please tell in more detail about the situation in Mariupol and in Sartana? How serious the shellings were? Where from they were shelling, from where they were shelling, from what they were shelling at night. The shelling was taking place from the distance of more than 12 kilometers. That is according to preliminary data, and these were howitzers of the enemy, and their range is 15-16 kilometers depending on the type of the shell. And that is the first after a long time, the first shelling after the long time, the first shelling of the Mariupol's outskirts. The first time they were shelling some time ago from grad system, but this is qualified as the act of terrorism. The criminal case has been filed, and there were some adjustments made by our artillery specialists to protect our citizens who are staying in pre-front settlements. The enemy has made that step, and they were shelling not at Ukrainian positions but at peaceful settlement, at peaceful city. And we understand that next time they will received the response. The enemy is now following the tactic of quick shellings and withdrawal, because in some sections of the front line where we see the attempts of the enemy to attack, we have our artillery there and they are afraid of our artillery. The artillery specialists are operating very well. They are eliminating, in this case with Sartana, is a challenge for our servicemen who have introduced some corrections into their location and weaponry.
Is there a general number of shellings over the last 24 hours? 148 enemy shellings. Any other questions, colleagues? No? Thank you, Colonel.